On a crisp autumn evening at the Westfield Academy's annual Fall Showcase, dozens of children in expensive dance attire gathered backstage, their parents having paid hundreds for custom costumes and private lessons to ensure their little stars would shine in tonight's performance. But at the edge of the group, one small boy in worn jeans and a faded t-shirt watched longingly, his eyes following every movement of the rehearsing dancers, his threadbare sneakers tapping unconsciously to the rhythm. Before we continue this remarkable story that will remind us all about the power of raw talent and the danger of judging others by appearance, please subscribe to our channel now so you never miss another inspiring video about extraordinary children who overcome incredible odds. The boy's name was Eli Thompson, and though none of the other children knew it, he had been teaching himself to dance by watching videos on the public library computers for over 2 years, practicing late into the night on the cracked linoleum of his foster home's kitchen when everyone else was asleep. His passion for movement had become his only escape from a life that had given him little reason to smile. The Ramirez household buzzed with its usual evening chaos as Eli slipped through the front door. Quietly trying to blend into the background, 5-year-old twins Maria and Miguel chased each other around the living room, while 13-year-old Carlos sprawled on the couch texting rapidly on his phone, the television blaring a cartoon that nobody seemed to be watching. "Eli, there you are," Rosa Ramirez called from the kitchen, where steam rose from several pots on the stove. "Dinner in 20 minutes, can you please set the table?" Eli nodded, grateful for the normalcy of the request, the routine chore helping to ground him. After the humiliation at the dance academy, his 4th foster home in 3 years, the Ramirez family was chaotic, but kind, providing stability he hadn't known before, though he still kept parts of himself carefully guarded as he arranged plates and silverware for the family of 6. Eli's mind replayed the afternoon's events, the laughter of the academy students, echoing in his memory Madeline's mocking voice, Mrs. Winter's dismissal, but also Claire's unexpected encouragement not to give up. "You okay, kid? Looking extra gloomy today," Carlos observed, without looking up from his phone. Eli shrugged. "I'm fine, sure. You are? That's why you're putting forks on the wrong side of all the plates." Eli glanced down, realizing his mistake, quickly rearranging the silverware as Carlos finally looked up, studying him with unexpected perception. "So what happened? Someone at school mess with you again?" "It wasn't school," Eli muttered, then hesitated before adding, "I went to Westfield Academy, tried to join their dance showcase." Carlos sat up, suddenly interested. "The fancy dance school by the park? Why would you go there?" Eli concentrated on straightening the napkins. "I like to dance, that's all." "Since when?" "Since always," Eli replied defensively. "Just because I never told you doesn't mean it's not true." Carlos held up his hands in surrender, Chill just surprised. "That's all, never seen you dance." "Because I don't do it where people can see me," Eli admitted quietly. Before Carlos could respond, Rosa called everyone to dinner. The conversation temporarily suspended as the family gathered around the table. Mr. Ramirez asking about everyone's day, the twins enthusiastically describing an art project at kindergarten, Carlos mentioning an upcoming math test, Eli offering minimal responses, hoping to avoid questions about his afternoon. Later that night, long after the household had fallen silent, Eli crept from his shared bedroom with Carlos down to the kitchen, his usual midnight ritual, when the darkness offered privacy, freedom from watchful eyes, judgment. The kitchen's linoleum floor wasn't ideal for dancing, but it was better than the carpeted bedrooms, the space just large enough. If he pushed the table aside carefully, he connected his earbuds to his second-hand phone, the cracked screen illuminating his face as he scrolled through saved music videos, settling on one he'd been studying for weeks, a contemporary ballet piece that combined classical technique with more modern movements, the kind that spoke to something deep inside him. Pressing play, Eli closed his eyes, letting the music flow through, the earbuds into his body beginning with simple movements stretching, awakening his muscles before transitioning into the routine he'd been practicing. Piece by piece for weeks, his sock-covered feet sliding across the linoleum, his arms extending. Reaching for something invisible but essential in these private moments, Eli transformed from a quiet foster kid to something else entirely. Something luminous, alive, his body understanding. Instinctively, what no teacher had ever shown him the way. Weight transfers between movements, how momentum carries through turns the importance of breath-matching motion. The kitchen disappeared around him, replaced by an imaginary stage where nobody laughed, nobody judged. Dios mío! The whispered exclamation shattered Eli's concentration. His eyes flying open to find Rosa Ramirez standing in the doorway, one hand pressed to her heart, her expression unreadable. Eli yanked out his earbuds, mortification flooding through him as he prepared for anger, disappointment. "Ridicule! I'm sorry," he blurted. "I know I shouldn't be up. I'll go back to bed. I was just dancing." Rosa finished for him, her voice soft with wonder. "You were dancing, Eli, and it was beautiful." Eli froze, uncertain how to respond to praise where he expected criticism. Rosa moved further into the kitchen. "How long have you been doing this? Where did you learn to move like that?" "I taught myself," Eli admitted hesitantly. "I watch videos at the library practice at night when nobody's around. Been doing it about 2 years, I think." Rosa shook her head in amazement. 2 years without a teacher, without anyone knowing? Eli nodded, uncomfortable with her attention. "It helps me sleep sometimes when my brain won't turn off," understanding dawned. In Rosa's eyes, the insomnia Eli occasionally suffered from the nightmares that sometimes woke him, remnants of earlier foster homes, less happy placements. "And today you went to Westfield Academy?" "They laughed at me," Eli said, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. "The kids there all have proper training, expensive clothes. They said I couldn't just walk in and join their showcase." Rosa's expression softened as she pulled out a kitchen chair, sitting down, patting the seat beside her. "Come sit, tell me everything." To his own surprise, Eli did, sitting beside his foster mother, explaining his secret visits to watch rehearsals, his self-teaching through library computers' videos, his dream of dancing on a real stage, the rejection and humiliation he'd faced earlier that day. "I know it was stupid," he concluded, staring at his hands. "People like me don't get to do things like that." "People like you?" Rosa repeated, her voice suddenly sharp. "What does that mean, Eli Thompson?" "You!" "No," he gestured vaguely at himself. "Foster kids with no money, no parents, no proper training." Rosa reached out, tilting his chin up, forcing him to meet her gaze. "Listen to me. Those things don't define what you can or cannot do. They are circumstances, not limitations. I saw what you were doing just now that wasn't ordinary. That was a gift." Eli swallowed hard. "Doesn't matter, they won't let me in." "Maybe not at Westfield," Rosa conceded. "But there must be other places, other opportunities. And if there aren't, we'll make them." The quiet determination in her voice sparked something in Eli's chest, a fragile hope. "Really?" Rosa nodded decisively. "Tomorrow we start researching community programs, scholarships, anything that might help. But for now you should sleep, it's very late." As Eli stood to return to bed, Rosa added, "And Eli, you don't have to hide your dancing anymore, not in this house. This is your home for as long as you need it to be. And in this family we support each other's dreams." Later, climbing back into bed, careful not to wake Carlos, Eli replayed Rosa's words in his mind, the simple acknowledgement of his passion, validating something he'd kept hidden for so long. Soon sleep claimed him, his dreams for once not filled with past hardships but with possibility, movement, freedom, dance. What Eli couldn't know, was that Carlos had been awake the entire time, his phone silently recording through the cracked bedroom door, capturing 2 minutes of his foster brother's midnight dance that would soon change everything. "Hey, foster freak, heard you tried to crash the Westfield showcase. What a joke." Eli kept his head down, continuing to organize his locker, ignoring Tyler Brewster and his friends who had somehow already heard about his humiliation at the dance academy. News traveled fast in their small town, especially gossip about someone like Eli, who already stood out as different. "What were you thinking?" Tyler continued, emboldened by Eli's silence. That they'd just let some charity case join their fancy dance. Show? The hallway of Eastside Middle School felt suddenly airless. As other students slowed to watch the confrontation, Eli's fingers tightened around his math textbook, knuckles whitening with the effort of restraining his response, fighting back. "Only ever made things worse? Leave him alone." "Tyler," a voice cut through the gathering crowd as Maya Johnson stepped forward, her status as student council president carrying enough weight to make Tyler hesitate. "Don't you have something better to do, like failing another English test?" Tyler's face reddened, but he backed off, muttering under his breath as he retreated down the hallway. Maya turned to Eli. "You okay?" Eli nodded, grateful but embarrassed. "Thanks. How did everyone find out anyway?" "Madeline. Jen goes here, remember? Different grade, but she's telling everyone how some poor kid tried to crash their precious dance practice." Maya rolled her eyes. "She's the worst." The bell rang, saving Eli from having to respond as students scattered to their classrooms. But throughout the day, he felt the stares, whispers following him. A new layer of isolation added to his already precarious social standing. Being a foster kid had always marked him as different. Now he was also the delusional boy. Who thought he could dance with the Westfield elite? By the time the final bell rang, Eli was desperate to escape the stifling atmosphere of judgment, slipping quickly through side exits to avoid another encounter with Tyler or Madeline's friends. But as he rounded the corner toward home, he found Carlos unexpectedly waiting for him. "Thought we could walk together," Carlos offered. Casually falling into step beside Elieli eyed him suspiciously. "You never walk home with me. What do you want?" Carlos grinned. "Can't a guy hang out with his foster brother without ulterior motives?" "No," Eli replied bluntly, "especially not you." They walked in silence for a few blocks before Carlos finally spoke again. "So I did something last night, don't freak. Out okay?" Eli stopped walking immediately. "What did you do?" Carlos pulled out his phone, swiping rapidly before turning the screen toward Eli. "I recorded you dancing in the kitchen, and I might have posted it online." Horror washed through Eli as he stared at the video playing on Carlos's screen himself in pajama pants and a t-shirt, executing a series of turns and leaps across the kitchen floor. The movements fluid, powerful, emotional, even in the dim lighting and cramped space, his talent. "Unmistakable." "You what?" Eli's voice emerged as a strangled whisper. "Why would you do that? Take it down right now." "I can't. Man, it's already everywhere," Carlos said, scrolling to show the view count, climbing past 50,000. It went mini viral overnight. People are sharing it like crazy. There's hundreds of comments. Eli snatched the phone, reading the most recent comments with growing disbelief. Who is this kid? Raw talent. Nobody teaching him this? Incredible. Better than half the trained dancers I know. Someone get this boy to a proper studio ASAP. I titled it, Foster Kid. Dances at Midnight. Self-taught prodigy. Carlos explained, taking his phone back. Added that you got rejected from Westfield Academy too. People love an underdog story. Yo. Had no right. Eli's voice shook with anger and betrayal. That was private. You invaded my privacy. Humiliated me. Humiliated you? Carlos looked genuinely confused. Dude, people love it. They think you're amazing. Didn't you see the comments? I don't care about the comments, Eli exploded. Dancing was the one thing that was just mine. The one thing nobody could take away or judge or ruin. And you just broadcast it to the entire internet without even asking me. Carlos's expression fell. I thought I was helping. I thought maybe someone would see it, offer you lessons or something. I didn't mean to upset you. Eli turned away, continuing toward home. His thoughts in chaos, part of him understanding Carlos's misguided intentions. Another part devastated by the violation of his most private self, the thought of strangers watching, judging, discussing something so personal, made him physically ill. Home Rosa greeted them excitedly. "Eli, there you are. Your video is everywhere. Did Carlos tell you? The local news station called. They want to interview you for their human interest segment." Eli stared at her in disbelief. "You knew about this?" Carlos showed me this morning, Rosa admitted. "I thought you knew, Eli. This could be a wonderful opportunity. People are responding to your talent." "I can't believe this," Eli muttered, pushing past her toward his room. "Did anyone think to ask me what I wanted?" Alone. In his room, Eli curled on his bed phone, clutched in his hand. Finally, working up the courage to search for the video himself. Finding it had now exceeded 75,000 views, comments continuing to pour in, some from dance teachers, choreographers, people claiming professional credentials, all expressing amazement at his untrained ability. A notification popped up on his screen. A direct message from an unfamiliar account. He opened it hesitantly, reading with growing disbelief. "Eli, my name is Claire Davis. I'm the assistant teacher at Westfield Academy who spoke to you yesterday. Someone showed me your video. You're even more talented than I suspected. Would you be willing to meet and talk? I think there might be a way to get you into the showcase after all." Eli read the message 3 times, not quite believing what he was seeing. Claire had recognized him from the video, thought he was talented enough to reconsider, wanted to meet with him. The possibility he'd been so certain was closed forever. Suddenly, reopening another notification appeared, this one from the Westfield Academy official account. Due to unexpected public interest, Westfield Academy is considering a special audition session for our fall showcase. Interested participants should contact the administrative office. Eli's heart raced as the implication sank in the Academy was responding to the viral attention, perhaps hoping to capitalize on the positive publicity or genuinely reconsidering. Their rigid policies either way, it represented a second chance. He never expected. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts, Rosa standing in the doorway. "Eli, I owe you an apology. I should have made Carlos take down the video when I first saw it should. Have talked to you first before encouraging him. I was just so excited for people to see your talent the way I did." Eli sat up, considering her words, the initial anger giving way to a more complicated emotion. "It's okay, I guess. I mean, it's done. Now, can't exactly put it back in the box. The news people still want to interview you," Rosa said cautiously, "but I told them I needed to discuss it with you first. Whatever you decide, we'll support you." Eli showed her the messages from Claire, and the Academy, Rosa's eyes widening as she read, "This is what I was hoping for, Eli. A real opportunity, but it's your decision, completely your choice." Looking down at his phone, watching the view count continue to climb, Eli felt a strange mixture of anxiety and exhilaration, his most private passion. Now the most public thing about him, his secret talent suddenly visible to the world. For better or worse, something had been set in motion that couldn't be reversed, I think, he said slowly. "I want to meet with Claire, see what she has to say about the showcase." Rosa nodded. "And the news interview?" Eli considered this, weighing his lifelong desire for privacy against the unexpected opportunity before him. "Maybe after I talk to Claire, I'll decide, but Carlos doesn't get to post any more videos without asking me first." "Absolutely," Rosa agreed. "I've already had that conversation with him. He understands now." As Rosa left, Eli returned to the messages, staring at Claire's words. The possibility. They contained still dizzying in its suddenness. Just yesterday, he had been escorted from the Academy, humiliated, rejected. Now, through the strange alchemy of social media, his midnight kitchen dancing had opened a door he thought permanently closed. To someone like him with trembling fingers, he typed a reply to Claire. "I would like to meet." "When and where?" The response came almost immediately. "Tomorrow after school, the coffee shop across from the Academy. Thank you for being willing to talk, Eli. Your dancing is something special." Eli lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling. The events of the past 24 hours swirling in his mind, the humiliation at the Academy, the betrayal of his privacy, the unexpected viral fame. And now this second chance, all because Carlos had recorded him dancing in the kitchen at midnight. Sometimes he thought life made absolutely no sense at all. The coffee shop across from Westfield Academy buzzed with after-school energy. Teenagers in various school uniforms clustered around tables, laptops, open textbooks spread wide, parents meeting children. For rides home, the aroma of espresso and baked goods filling the warm space. Eli sat alone at a corner table, fingers nervously drumming against his water-glass eyes. Fixed on the door, he had changed clothes 3 times before, settling on his cleanest jeans and a plain blue button-up shirt borrowed from Carlos's closet, still casual, but a step up from his usual t-shirts. Rosa had offered to come with him, but Eli had declined. Wanting to handle this conversation himself, the bell above the door chimed as Claire Davis entered, scanning the room. Spotting Eli with a warm smile, she navigated between tables, her casual elegance making her stand out, even in street clothes, dark jeans, and a simple sweater. Her dance background evident in her perfect posture, graceful movements. "Eli, thank you for meeting me," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Have you ordered anything yet?" He shook his head, suddenly shy in her presence. "Just water." Claire signaled a barista, 1 vanilla latte, and she looked at Eli questioningly. "Hot chocolate?" He ventured, feeling childish, but it was the only thing he really liked from coffee shops, and 1 hot chocolate. Claire finished with a smile, waiting until the barista departed before continuing. "So your video has certainly made waves, especially at the Academy." Eli studied his water glass, unable to meet her eyes. "I didn't know my foster brother was recording me. He posted it without asking." "I figured as much." Claire nodded. It had that quality of something private, not performed for an audience, which made it all the more powerful. Actually, that authenticity is what caught everyone's attention. Their drinks arrived, creating a momentary pause. Eli, wrapping his hands around the warm mug, gathering courage to ask the question foremost in his mind. "So is it true? Is there really a chance I could be in the showcase?" Claire took a sip of her latte, considering her words carefully. "The situation is complicated, Ms. Winters. The Academy director initially dismissed the video, called it undisciplined movement without proper technique. But then something unexpected happened." Eli tensed, preparing for disappointment. "Marcus Wilson saw your video." Claire continued, watching Eli's face. For recognition, not finding it, she elaborated, "He's one of the most influential choreographers in contemporary ballet, currently guest teaching at the Academy for the showcase. His work combines classical technique with modern influences, breaking traditional boundaries, and he saw me dancing in my kitchen," Eli said. Disbelievingly, Claire nodded. "Not only saw it, but was impressed enough to question Mrs. Winters' dismissal of your potential. He believes your natural movement quality is exceptional. Rare even among trained dancers." Eli's heart raced at this assessment from someone he'd never met, someone with professional credibility. "So what does that mean exactly?" "It means," Claire said, leaning forward, "the Academy Board has authorized a special audition for you this Friday with Marcus and Mrs. Winters. Evaluating if you pass, you'll be given a conditional place in the showcase with intensive training to prepare you in the limited time remaining." Eli stared at her, processing this information. "But I don't have any formal training. I don't know the terminology or positions or anything." "Marcus believes that can be taught quickly to someone with your natural ability," Claire explained. "What you have, that intuitive understanding of movement quality, emotional expression, that's much harder to teach." "Why are you helping me?" Eli asked suddenly. "You don't even know me." Claire's expression softened. "I was a scholarship student at Westfield years ago, the only one in my class from the east side of town. I know what it's like to be the outsider, how hard it is to break into spaces that weren't designed for people like us. I also recognize exceptional talent when I see it, talent that deserves opportunity regardless of background." Something loosened in Eli's chest at her words, the recognition of shared experience, however different their paths might be. "There's something else you should know." Claire continued, her tone growing more serious. "Not everyone at the Academy is happy about this. Madeline Chen, in particular, has been vocal in her opposition. Her parents are major donors. She's used to being the center of attention. She was the one who laughed the loudest when I first came. Eli remembered. Claire nodded. Madeline has been the star of every showcase since she was 7. This special consideration for you threatens her position both literally and symbolically. You would be wise to prepare for some resistance. Eli absorbed this warning understanding. The additional challenge it represented beyond the already daunting task of preparing for the showcase with minimal training. I'm used to people not wanting me around. The simple statement hung between them, Claire's expression flickering with recognition of the deeper meaning behind his words. The showcase means performing in front of hundreds of people. Eli, are you prepared for that level of visibility? Your video going viral was one thing, but this would be very real, very public, Ross. Consider this question seriously. The thought of performing on an actual stage, both terrifying and exhilarating. Dancing has always been private for me, something I did alone, but when I dance, I feel complete, like I'm finally saying something important in a language that makes sense to me, whether people are watching or not, maybe especially if they are. Claire studied him, a slow smile spreading across her face. That right there is why Marcus wants to give you this chance, that understanding is something most dancers take years to develop, if they ever do. She pulled a folder from her bag, sliding it across the table. This contains everything you need to know about the audition details. Time, location, what to wear, what to prepare, the showcase schedule, assuming you're accepted, and my contact information for any questions. Eli opened the folder, scanning the contents, his eyes widening at the formal Academy letterhead, making this opportunity suddenly very real. It says, I need to prepare a 1-minute solo piece, something that showcases your strengths, Claire confirmed. Nothing technically complex, just authentic movement that represents who you are as a dancer. Marcus wants to see your natural style before we start training you in classical technique. And if I pass the audition, then the real work begins, Claire said frankly. It would mean intensive training every day, after school weekends too, learning in weeks. What most students develop over years. It won't be easy, Eli, but I believe you can do it, as their meeting concluded. Eli carefully tucked the folder into his backpack, the possibility it represented both thrilling and terrifying. Claire walked him to the door, offering a final piece of advice. Be prepared for Friday. Eli, not just technically but emotionally, show them not just what you can do, but who you are as a dancer. That's what will ultimately make the difference. Walking home in the fading afternoon light, Eli felt the weight of opportunity pressing on him, the chance he had longed for. Now within reach, but carrying complications. He hadn't anticipated the resistance from Madeline. The intensive training required the public visibility. All challenges beyond the simple joy of movement he had discovered alone in his kitchen, but beneath the anxiety ran a current of something stronger, determination, purpose. The sense that perhaps this was what all those midnight practice sessions had been preparing him for, not just dance for its own sake, but dance as a bridge to something larger, a way to be seen, truly seen, for the first time in his life. Friday arrived with alarming speed, the intervening days, a blur of preparation. Rosa helping Eli select appropriate clothes for the audition. Black sweatpants and a fitted t-shirt, the closest they could manage to proper dancewear without spending money. They didn't have Carlos offering his Bluetooth speaker for Eli's music. Continuous apologies for the video incident still flowing regularly from his lips. It'll be fine, Rosa assured Eli as she drove him to the academy, her ancient sedan rattling slightly as they approached the imposing building. Just dance the way you do at home, the way you feel it. Eli nodded silently, his stomach twisted into knots. He had spent every free moment choreographing his audition piece, reworking it obsessively, trying to showcase the raw emotion and movement quality Claire had emphasized while appearing somewhat structured to appease Mrs. Winter's classical sensibilities. "Do you want me to come in with you?" Rosa asked as they pulled up to the Curbileos. Shook his head. Claire said parents usually wait outside during auditions, though the word parents didn't quite fit. Eli appreciated Rosa's unwavering support these past days, her willingness to rearrange work schedules to accommodate this opportunity. "I'll be right here then," she promised. Squeezing his hand, "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you for trying." The Academy's interior felt different today, less intimidating. Now that Eli was here officially with permission, he followed the signs to Studio 3, where his audition would take place, his borrowed sneakers silent on the polished floors. Unlike last time when their squeaking had announced his unwelcome presence, Claire was waiting outside the studio door, her encouraging smile easing some of Eli's tension. "Ready?" she asked. "Not really," Eli admitted, "but I'm here. That's half the battle," she replied. Opening the door for him, Studio 3 was smaller than the main rehearsal space Eli had snuck into previously, but still impressive. With polished wood floors, mirrored walls, a baby grand piano in one corner. Mrs. Winters sat at a small table in the center of the room beside a man Eli didn't recognize, tall with salt and pepper hair, sharp, intelligent eyes that immediately focused on Eli as he entered. "Eli Thompson," Mrs. Winters acknowledged her tone, neutral, professional. "Thank you for coming promptly. This is Marcus Wilson, our guest choreographer for this year's showcase." Marcus stood extending his hand to Eli, who shook it. Nervously, "Pleasure to meet you in person, Eli. Your video was quite compelling." "Thank you, sir," Eli managed, still overwhelmed by the situation. "No need for sir," Marcus smiled. "We're all artists here now. Claire mentioned you've prepared a short solo piece for us?" Eli nodded, fumbling with his phone. "I have the music here." Claire took the phone, connecting it to the studio's sound system, while Marcus and Mrs. Winters returned to their seats at the table. Notepads ready, Eli moved to the center of the room, suddenly acutely aware of the mirrors multiplying his image, the scrutiny of the professional eyes watching him. "Whenever you're ready, Eli," Marcus encouraged. "Take your time." Eli closed his eyes briefly, centering himself, remembering Rosa's words about dancing the way he did at home, finding that private space within himself. Despite the public setting, nodding to Claire to start the music, the first notes filled the studio. A piano composition Eli had discovered online, haunting. Emotional building gradually in intensity, he began moving slowly, deliberately. His movements expanding with the music, his body responding instinctively to the crescendos and diminuendos, years of self-training evident in the natural flow between. Sequences halfway through, he caught glimpses of himself in the mirrors, initially disconcerting, but then oddly empowering. Seeing the lines his body created, the emotion visible in every gesture, the mirrors became partners rather than judges reflecting back the truth of his movement as the music built toward its climax. Eli executed a series of turns he'd been practicing for weeks, followed by a leap that seemed to suspend him momentarily in air, before landing in controlled silence the final notes of music accompanying his descent to the floor, one arm reaching upward in a gesture of both supplication and triumph. Silence fell in the studio, Eli remaining in his final position, breathing hard more from emotion than exertion, uncertain what would come next. "Thank you, Eli." Mrs. Winters spoke first, her voice carefully professional. "That was most interesting." Marcus said nothing, initially writing something in his notepad before looking up. "Would you mind trying something for me, Eli? An improvisational exercise?" Eli nodded, though uncertainty flickered across his face. "Excellent." Marcus stood approaching the center of the room. "I'm going to give you 3 words, emotion concepts. I want you to interpret them through movement, whatever comes naturally. Don't overthink it. Ready?" Another nod from Eli. First word, trapped. Without hesitation, Eli's body contracted, his movements becoming restricted, angular, his face expressing the frustration of confinement drawing unconsciously on emotions all too familiar from his years in the foster system. Second word, release. His body responded immediately, unfurling, expanding into the space arms wide chest. Open the contrast to the previous concept, striking in its physical clarity. Final word, hope. This presented more challenge, Eli pausing briefly before beginning a sequence that started small, tentative, gradually building in confidence, his movements reaching upward, outward, suggesting possibility growth, his expression transforming from uncertainty to quiet determination. "Thank you," Marcus said softly, returning to his seat, exchanging a significant look with Mrs. Winters, who pursed her lips slightly before making additional notes. "Eli, would you mind stepping outside with Claire for a few minutes while we confer?" Mrs. Winters requested, heart pounding. Eli followed Claire into the hallway, collapsing against the wall once the door closed. "Was it okay? I messed up that second turn and my arm placement was probably all wrong and—" "Breathe," Claire interrupted gently. "You were authentic," which is exactly what Marcus was looking for. Technique can be taught. Genuine artistic expression cannot. Inside the studio, Marcus and Mrs. Winters engaged in intense discussion, their voices occasionally rising enough for fragments to reach the hallway. "Completely untrained, Alexandra. We can't possibly. Raw talent I haven't seen in decades. What about Madeline and the other students who've worked? Fresh perspective, exactly what the showcase needs." Eli paced the hallway, anxiety mounting. With each passing minute, the possibility of rejection looming larger. Despite Claire's reassurances, finally the studio door opened. Mrs. Winters appearing, her expression unreadable. "Eli, please, come back in." He followed her inside where Marcus now stood. "Center room." His posture relaxed, confident. "Eli, we've reached a decision," he began. "Your performance today confirmed what I suspected from your video. You possess extraordinary natural talent, emotional intelligence, and movement quality that cannot be taught." Eli held his breath, waiting for the "but" that surely must follow. "We would like to offer you a conditional place in the fall showcase." Marcus continued, "with intensive training beginning immediately to prepare you for performance in exactly 18 days. Disbelief washed through Eli, followed quickly by elation. "Really? You mean it?" Ms. Winters stepped forward, her expression serious. "This is highly irregular, Eli, and will require extraordinary commitment from you. Daily training, sessions, extended rehearsals, rapid acquisition of technical skills. I must be completely transparent about the challenges ahead." "I understand." Eli nodded eagerly. "I'll work harder than anyone, I promise." "There's something else," Ms. Winters added. "Your participation will be featured in the showcase program as a special guest performer. You won't be integrated into the existing group numbers, but will instead perform a solo piece choreographed by Marcus specifically for you." Eli processed this information, understanding both the opportunity and the separation it represented. "So, I won't be dancing with the other students?" Marcus answered. "Not initially, though. We may incorporate you into the finale depending on your progress. This arrangement allows you to showcase your unique qualities while acknowledging the different training backgrounds involved." The compromise made sense to Eli, though he sensed it might also further alienate him from the academy students, especially. "Madeline, do you accept these terms?" Mrs. Winters asked formally. "Yes," Eli replied without hesitation. "Absolutely, yes." "Excellent," Marcus smiled, extending his hand again. "Welcome to Westfield Academy. Eli training begins tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp." As Eli left the studio, Claire walking him back to Rosa's waiting car, his mind spun with the implications of what had just occurred. The extraordinary opportunity before him, the hard work ahead, the doors suddenly opening in his life, all because Carlos had captured his private midnight dancing, sharing it with a world that would otherwise never have seen what he could do. "You did it," Rosa exclaimed as Eli slid into the passenger seat, her face lighting up at his expression. "They accepted you?" Eli nodded, still dazed by the reality of it. I'm going to be in the showcase performing a solo piece choreographed just for me. As Rosa pulled away from the academy, Eli looked back at the imposing building that had once seemed so forbidden. Now a place where he would spend his coming days and weeks, learning, growing, becoming the dancer he had always somehow known he could be if given the chance. "Everything changes now, doesn't it?" he said quietly. More to himself than to Rosash glanced at him, understanding the weight of his words. "Yes, Eli, I believe it does. First position, second position, third position, fourth, fifth," Claire called out, demonstrating each classical ballet position as Eli mimicked her movements, his borrowed dance shoes still stiff and unfamiliar on his feet. "Good now, plie in each. Position demi-plie, then grand plie." It was Sunday afternoon, Eli's third training session already, his muscles aching in ways he'd never experienced before. The methodical precision of ballet technique, a stark contrast to his self-taught style. Claire had been assigned as his primary instructor, with Marcus overseeing his progress, developing the solo piece that would showcase his unique abilities while incorporating enough classical elements to satisfy Mrs. Winters and the Academy Board. "My legs are on fire," Eli admitted, during a water break, stretching his calves, which cramped persistently. Claire nodded sympathetically. "Ballet uses muscles you didn't know you had, especially when you start this late. Most students begin as young children, when the body is more adaptable." "Will I ever catch up?" Eli asked the question that had been haunting him since training began. To students with 8 or 9 years of technical training? "Not in 3 weeks," Claire answered honestly. "But that's not the point. Eli, Marcus isn't trying to turn you into a classical ballet dancer. He's working to refine your natural abilities, give you enough technical foundation to structure your innate talent." The studio door opened as Marcus entered, checking his watch. "How's our guest artist progressing, Claire?" "Remarkably well for day 3, she replied. "His body awareness is exceptional. Picks up corrections immediately, even if the technical vocabulary is still new." Marcus nodded approvingly. "Excellent. We'll need that quick learning for what I have in mind. Ready to start working on your solo piece, Eli?" Excitement flashed across Eli's face, despite his exhaustion. "Absolutely," Claire mentioned. "You discovered dance through videos online. What styles initially spoke to you?" Marcus asked, positioning himself beside Eli in the mirror. "Contemporary mostly," Eli answered. "Pieces that told stories, expressed emotions I liked. How they mixed different techniques didn't follow strict rules." Marcus smiled. "Precisely why your viral video caught my attention. You dance from instinct, from feeling, rather than rote training." He demonstrated a simple sequence, combining a classical turn with more contemporary upper body movements. "Try this, follow my lead, lie." Mirrored the sequence, his execution rough, but capturing the essential quality, the fusion of structure and freedom. "Good. Now make it yours. Change something. Express it differently without hesitation." Eli repeated the sequence, adding his own interpretation, extending the final position, creating a moment of suspension before releasing into the next movement. "That's it." Marcus nodded encouragement. "That's exactly what I want to showcase, you working within structure, but transforming it through your unique perspective." For the next hour, they built the framework of Eli's solo piece, Marcus, crafting a skeleton of movements that Eli would inhabit, bringing his natural expressiveness to the choreographed structure, Claire occasionally suggesting modifications to accommodate Eli's developing technique. "This is just the beginning," Marcus explained as they finished. "We'll refine, add layers, develop transitions, but the essence is there. The contrast between classical precision and emotional rawness, the outsider finding his place within tradition while changing it through his presence." Eli nodded, understanding that Marcus was choreographing not just a dance, but a metaphor for Eli's own journey into the academy world tomorrow after. "School will continue," Marcus said, gathering his notes. "Claire will work with you on technique in the morning before classes begin." As Eli collected his things preparing to leave, Claire mentioned casually, "You know, the other students are rehearsing." Down the hall, if you wanted to observe their work, might help you understand the showcase context better. Curiosity overcoming trepidation. Eli followed Claire to the main studio where the Academy students were practicing a complex group number. Their movements synchronized, polished elite Mrs. Winters, moving among them, making minor corrections, adjusting arm positions, head angles, foot placement. I watched from the doorway, fascinated by their precision, the years of training evident in every movement, especially Madeline Chen at center, her technique flawless, her extensions perfect. Though Eli noticed something else beneath the technical excellence, a certain performative quality that felt rehearsed rather than felt, several students noticed. Eli standing in the doorway, whispering among themselves, some expressions curious, others dismissive. Madeline catching sight of him mid-pirouette, her face immediately hardening. "Focus, please," Mrs. Winters called, redirecting their attention again. From the beginning, as the music restarted, Eli continued watching, absorbing the choreography, appreciating the skill, while noticing the differences between this polished performance and his own approach to movement. Different worlds, aren't they? Marcus spoke quietly, appearing beside Eli. "What they do is beautiful, impressive, the culmination of years of dedicated training." Eli nodded. "They're amazing, so technically perfect, but?" Marcus prompted, hearing the unspoken qualification in Eli's voice. "But sometimes it feels like they're so focused on getting everything exactly right, they forget to feel the music to express something real," Eli admitted, then quickly added, "Not that I know anything, I mean, they're the trained dancers." Marcus smiled thoughtfully. "Technical perfection is certainly one measure of dance excellence, Eli, but not the only one, not even necessarily the most important one. When an audience connects deeply with a performance, it's rarely because of perfect turnout or flawless port de bras. It's because the dancer has communicated something authentic, something human." The rehearsal concluded, Mrs. Winters, dismissing the students who gathered their belongings, chatting among themselves, a few glancing curiously in Eli's direction, Madeline deliberately turning her back, continuing her conversation with friends Eli. Mrs. Winters approached her expression professional. "How is your training progressing?" "Very well, I think," Eli answered respectfully. "Everyone's been really helpful." Ms. Winters nodded. "Marcus speaks highly of your work ethic. That's encouraging to hear." She hesitated before adding, "I should mention that your unusual inclusion in the showcase has created some discussion among our regular students and their parents." Eli felt his stomach tighten. "I understand. Some feel that your participation without the years of training they've invested might send an unfortunate message about the Academy standards." Ms. Winters continued, her tone measured. "I'm telling you this not to discourage you, but to prepare you for the environment you'll be navigating these coming weeks. Thank you for the warning." Eli replied, understanding the subtext. She was alerting him to resistance ahead as Mrs. Winters walked away. Marcus placed a supportive hand on Eli's shoulder. Politics exist in every artistic community. Eli, try not to let it distract you from your work. Crossing the studio, Madeline approached her dance bag slung over one shoulder. "So you actually got in," she said, addressing Eli directly for the first time. "Special guest performer, I heard." Eli nodded, uncertain how to respond to her. "Barely." "Concealed hostility. Must be nice getting a free pass because of some viral video while the rest of us have been working for years." She continued, her voice low enough that only Eli and Marcus could hear. "My parents pay thousands for my training. Contribute to the Academy Fund every year. Then someone like you walks in because you're what? Inspirational? A good publicity story?" Before Eli could respond, Marcus intervened smoothly. "Madeline, your dedication to dance is commendable, as is Eli's. Albeit through different paths, the showcase will be stronger for including diverse perspectives. Don't you agree?" Madeline's expression remained cold, though she moderated her tone in the choreographer's presence. Of course, Mr. Wilson, I'm simply concerned about maintaining the Academy's standards of excellence. As she walked away, Marcus turned to Eli that unfortunately is part of dance too. Navigating personalities, competitive dynamics, institutional politics. But remember why you're here, Eli. Focus on the work on your development as an artist. The rest is just noise, leaving the Academy. That evening, Eli felt the competing worlds pulling at him, the structure and discipline of classical training, clashing with his intuitive, self-taught approach. The excitement of new skills and knowledge overshadowed by the undercurrent of resentment. From students like Madeline, the extraordinary opportunity before him, complicated by the politics surrounding his presence. Yet beneath these tensions ran a current of determination, the same quiet persistence that had led him to practice alone for years in kitchens and library bathrooms, finding dance without teachers or proper spaces or encouragement. That core of resilience would carry him through these challenges, to helping him navigate between worlds while remaining true to the dancer he was becoming. 1 week into Eli's training, the grueling schedule had become his new normal early morning technique classes with Claire before school afternoon sessions with Marcus, developing his solo piece weekend workshops focused on stage presence performance, quality, and the specific skills needed for his choreography. The Ramirez family had reorganized their entire household routine to accommodate his training Rosa, driving him to morning sessions, Carlos helping with his homework during lunch, so evenings could be dedicated to practice. "You look exhausted," Maya commented during history class, noticing the dark circles under Eli's eyes. "This dance thing is really intense, huh?" Eli nodded, stifling a yawn. "Worth it, though I'm learning so much so quickly. It's like my brain can barely keep up with my body sometimes." "The video of you dancing has over 500,000 views now," Maya mentioned, pulling up the stats on her phone. "People are making reaction videos, commenting like crazy. There's even a #HoraRelentless Ellie." Eli still found the viral attention surreal, disconnected from the actual work he was doing each day at the Academy. "Weird to think of all those strangers watching me in my pajamas dancing in the kitchen. Not weird, amazing." Maya corrected, "You're changing people's ideas about who gets to be a dancer." Eli, lots of comments are from kids saying you inspired them to try dance classes. Before Eli could respond, their teacher called the class to attention, though Maya slipped him a note minutes later. "Whole school is rooting for you at the showcase, except Madeline's snobby friends, of course." That afternoon in the Academy studio, Eli worked with Marcus, fine-tuning the middle section of his solo. When Madeline and several other advanced students entered earlier than their scheduled rehearsal time, their voices carrying across the space, so disruptive, having to work around special tutorial sessions. Madeline commented loudly to her friend Amber, "Some of us are trying to prepare actual polished performances," Marcus continued, working with Eli, though his eyes flickered briefly toward the interruption. Again, from the arabesque transition, "Eli, focus on the suspended moment before the release," Eli repeated. The sequence trying to maintain concentration, despite the distracting presence of the other students who had begun warming up noisily at the bar, deliberately encroaching on the space Marcus had been using. "Excellent improvement," Marcus encouraged. "Now let's work on the music transition at measure 24, where the tempo shifts." As the music began again, Eli moved through the choreography, feeling the gradual transformation from structured, ballet-inspired movements to his more contemporary, expressive sequences. Just as they reached the key transition, Madeline turned the volume up on a different piece of music from the studio sound system. The clashing melodies, creating disorienting cacophony, faltered. Momentarily confused by the conflicting rhythms, "Sorry," Madeline called insincerely. "Didn't realize you were still using the sound system. We have permission to practice now." Marcus checked his watch. "Actually, Madeline, your group isn't scheduled for another 20 minutes. We'll be finished shortly," Ms. Winters said. "We could start early today," Amber interjected. She wants us to run through the opening number twice before full company rehearsal. Eli sensed the power play, understanding that his status as outsider made him vulnerable in this environment despite Marcus's support. "We can finish later," he offered, not wanting to create further tension. "Unnecessary," Marcus replied firmly. "Madeline, please turn off your music until we've completed this section." Eli's work deserves the same respect as any other student's. Madeline complied with obvious reluctance. Eli, feeling her cold stare as he resumed his practice, the remainder of the session continuing under a cloud of hostility. When Mrs. Winters arrived 15 minutes later, she seemed surprised to find the advanced students already present. "I thought your rehearsal began at 4:30, she questioned. "We wanted extra practice time," Madeline explained smoothly. "Dedication to excellence and all that." Mrs. Winters nodded approvingly. "Commendable initiative, ladies. Eli, how is your solo progressing?" "Very well," Marcus answered before Eli could respond. "In fact, I'd like to show you what we've accomplished so far." Eli felt a flutter of anxiety at this unexpected request, not having prepared for a formal showing, especially with Madeline and her friends watching from the beginning. "Please, Eli," Marcus instructed, resetting the music, "just as we've been practicing." Taking a deep breath, Eli centered himself, blocking out the critical audience, focusing on the movements that had become increasingly familiar over the past week, finding the balance between technical precision and emotional expression that Marcus had been nurturing as he danced. He gradually lost awareness of the watching eyes, falling into the choreography, feeling the music guide his body through the narrative Marcus had crafted, a story of outsider becoming insider without losing his unique voice, his authenticity. The final sequence, incorporating classical technique filtered through Eli's natural movement quality, creating something that belonged fully to neither world but created its own. When he finished, silence fell across the studio. Mrs. Winters's expression unreadable. Marcus watching her reaction carefully. After a moment, she nodded once. "Interesting technique, still obviously developing, but the concept has merit." From Madeline came a barely audible scoff, quickly disguised as a cough. "Thank you, Eli. That will be all for today," Mrs. Winters concluded. "Company rehearsal begins in 10 minutes. Marcus, I'd like a word about the showcase running order." As Eli gathered his things, preparing to leave, Claire entered, catching the tail end of the interaction. "Everything okay?" she asked quietly, noticing his expression, "Just some tension with the other students." Eli explained, "Nothing I can't handle." Claire frowned slightly. "Anything specific I should know about?" Eli hesitated, not wanting to seem like he was complaining. "Just the usual stuff, different music overlapping when I was trying to practice, nothing serious." Understanding dawned in Claire's eyes, the old music switch deliberately throwing you off your rhythm. Classic dance sabotage. Sabotage. Seems dramatic, Eli shrugged. "Just kids being difficult. Don't minimize it, Eli," Claire warned. "Competitive dancers can be ruthless, especially when they feel threatened, and your presence here definitely threatens the established order." Eli contemplated this as he changed in the small changing room reserved for visiting students, hanging his practice clothes carefully in the locker Claire had secured for him. When he returned to collect his backpack, he found it missing, momentary panic rising, until he spotted it across the room, contents spilled onto the floor. His water bottle emptied, his carefully saved dance shoes nowhere to be seen. "Looking for these?" a voice asked from the doorway. Ellie turned to find Jackson, one of the male dancers, in Madeline's circle, holding the missing shoes, dangling them casually from one finger. "Found them in the girls' bathroom. Weird place for them, don't you think?" Eli took the shoes, checking them for damage, finding none. "Thankfully." "Thanks," he said neutrally. Though they both knew Jackson wasn't responsible for their relocation. Word of advice: foster kid, Jackson said, stepping closer. "People here have worked their whole lives for spots in this showcase, paid their dues, earned their places nobody likes." A shortcut artist writing in on social media fame. I'm not trying to take anything from anyone. Eli responded, gathering his scattered belongings. Just working hard for an opportunity. Jackson snorted. Opportunity you didn't earn? That's the point. Ballet isn't about viral videos or inspirational stories about underdogs. It's about discipline, technique, sacrifice, things you know nothing about. The accusation stung partly because Eli had wondered the same thing himself, whether he truly deserved this chance when others had dedicated years to their training. You don't know anything about my life or what I've sacrificed, Eli replied quietly. But thanks for returning my shoes. As Jackson left, Eli finished collecting his things, the interaction settling heavily in his chest, dampening the exhilaration he'd felt during practice, reminding him that no matter how well his training progressed, how quickly he advanced technically, to many at the academy, he would always be an intruder, a publicity stunt, an undeserving outsider walking home that evening. Eli considered telling Marcus about the incident, then decided against it, addressing. It would only create more drama, potentially make things worse. He would simply need to be more careful with his belongings, more vigilant in his practice sessions, more determined to prove through hard work and progress that his place in the showcase wasn't simply charity or novelty, but earned through the dedication and sacrifice Jackson claimed he knew nothing about. The showcase is in 9 days and you're still hesitating on the transition, Marcus observed, as Eli completed another run-through of his solo piece. What's holding you back? Eli wiped sweat from his forehead, frustrated with himself. I don't know. The choreography is clear in my head, but something feels blocked when I get to that section. They had been working for nearly 2 hours in Studio 3, Eli's stamina improving dramatically over the past week, but his confidence wavering as showcase. Night approached the magnitude of what he'd undertaken, becoming increasingly apparent with each passing day. Marcus studied him thoughtfully. Take a break, drink some water, let's talk. Eli collapsed onto a bench, grateful for the reprieve, as Marcus sat beside him. When I first saw your video, what struck me wasn't technical skill, but freedom, the pure joy of movement for its own sake. No audience, no judgment, just you and the music. That quality is diminishing in your dancing, recently being replaced with something more cautious. Controlled, Eli stared at his hands. I'm trying to get the steps right, the technique. Technique serves expression, not the other way around, Marcus countered. You're thinking too much about what others expect, trying to prove you belong here rather than dancing your truth. The observation hit uncomfortably close to home. Eli had indeed been obsessing over proving himself worthy, especially after the incidents with Madeline and Jackson, their doubts becoming his own internal critic. I keep worrying I'll get on stage and everyone will see I don't belong, that I'm just a foster kid who got lucky, Eli admitted. The fear he'd been carrying finally voiced. Tell me something, Eli. Marcus leaned back against the wall. Why did you start dancing in the first place? Before viral videos? Academy training showcase opportunities, what drew you to movement? Eli considered the question, remembering those first tentative steps in a different foster home years. I'll go see it helped me feel. When everything else was numb, when I couldn't control anything else in my life, I could control how I moved, how I expressed what was inside me. Nobody could take that away. Exactly. Marcus nodded. That's what's missing now. You're dancing for approval, for validation, to earn your place instead of dancing from that original, authentic impulse. The studio door opened, Claire entering with a concerned expression. Sorry to interrupt, but have you seen this? She handed her phone to Marcus, who frowned, as he read whatever was displayed on the screen. What is it? Eli asked. Anxiety mounting at their expressions, Marcus passed him the phone displaying a private Instagram account belonging to an academy student, featuring a post with Eli's viral video, side by side with footage apparently recorded secretly during his practice sessions, the caption reading, Expectation versus Reality. Academy standards officially dead, special showcase guests chosen for views, not talent, Jardadance fail. Eli felt his stomach drop seeing the deliberately unflattering practice footage captured mid-instruction, when he was learning new movements juxtaposed against his kitchen dance to make his academy work, appear awkward, amateurish comments below the post from other students adding cruel observations about his technique background. How did they even get this footage? Eli asked, his voice hollow. Someone filming during practice, probably, Claire said, anger evident in her tone, completely against academy policy. But that doesn't seem to matter to whoever did this. Marcus took the phone back, scrolling through comments, his expression darkening. Claire, please take this to Mrs. Winters immediately. This violates multiple academy rules about recording other students. Invasion of privacy, cyberbullying. As Claire left, Eli stood moving to the center of the studio, his body suddenly restless with emotion. Let's continue the rehearsal, Eli. We should discuss this first. Marcus began. There's nothing to discuss, Eli interrupted with unexpected firmness. They want me to quit, to run away, to prove I don't belong here. I won't give them that satisfaction. Let's fix the transition. Marcus studied him for a long moment before nodding. Very well. Show me where you're getting stuck. With renewed intensity, Eli threw himself into the choreography, something fundamental shifting inside him, anger transmuting into determination, the sabotage attempts pushing him toward a decision point, either allow these obstacles to defeat him or use them as fuel. Instead of dancing to prove his critics wrong, he would dance because it was who he was, what he needed, regardless of their opinion. 2 hours later, Eli had broken through the technical barrier that had been hindering his progress, the transitional sequence now flowing naturally from classical precision into contemporary expression, Marcus watching with growing approval as Eli repeated the full piece energy and authenticity restored to his movement. That, Marcus said as Eli finished, is why I fought for your inclusion in this showcase, that quality can't be taught. As Eli gathered his things preparing to leave, Marcus added, about that social media post, Eli? Do you want me to speak with your foster parents? They should probably be aware. Eli shook his head. No, it would just worry Rosa unnecessarily. I can handle this myself. Just because you can handle something alone doesn't always mean you should, Marcus observed. There's strength in allowing others to support you. I know, Eli acknowledged. But Rosa already rearranged her work schedule, drives me to practice every day. Carlos helps with my homework, so I can train. They're already doing so much. I don't want to add more stress. Leaving the academy, Eli found a familiar figure waiting outside Claire, leaning against the building. Her expression troubled. Mrs. Winters is addressing the social media situation. The account has been taken down. Students involved will face disciplinary action. Let me guess, Madeline? Eli asked. Though he already knew the answer, Claire nodded. And Amber, though Madeline claims Amber posted without her knowledge, plausible deniability. It doesn't matter, Eli shrugged through the hurt, lingered beneath his casual response. It absolutely matters, Claire countered. This kind of behavior is unacceptable, especially from senior students who should be setting an example. Eli looked toward the street where Rosa would soon arrive to pick him up. Can I ask you something? Claire, honestly? Of course. Do you think I really have a chance at this, at being good enough for the showcase? Or is this all just a publicity stunt for the academy, capitalizing on my viral moment? Claire considered his question seriously. Eli, in my 7 years teaching here, I've never seen Marcus Wilson advocate so strongly for a student, especially one without formal training. His reputation, his professional judgment is on the line with your performance. He wouldn't risk that for publicity. And Mrs. Winters, initially skeptical, yes, but even she's impressed with your progress, your work ethic. She values dedication above all else, and you've demonstrated that consistently. Rosa's car appeared at the curb, honking lightly. Eli shouldered his bag. Thanks, Claire, for everything. 9 more days, Eli, she called after him. Just keep focusing on the work at home that evening. Eli practiced in the living room, the Ramirez family having rearranged furniture to create a small dance space, the twins watching in fascination as he worked through segments of his choreography. Rosa offering encouragement from the kitchen where she prepared dinner. "You seem different today," Carlos observed during a break. "More intense." Eli considered sharing the Instagram incident, then decided against it, focusing instead on the breakthrough he'd experienced just getting closer to showcase night, getting more comfortable with the choreography. "You're going to kill it," Carlos said, with unexpected sincerity. "Show all those fancy academy kids what real dancing looks like." The simple vote of confidence from his normally sarcastic foster brother meant more than Carlos could know, strengthening Eli's resolve to persist through whatever challenges the remaining 9 days might bring. The showcase no longer representing just an opportunity but a statement of identity, a declaration that he belonged in dance, even if he'd found his way there through an unconventional path. That night, Eli dreamed of dancing not in the Academy's prestigious theater, but back in the kitchen where it all began, except in the dream. The kitchen expanded impossibly into a vast stage, the midnight solitude replaced by watching eyes, some critical, some wondering, some inspired his movement. Building a bridge between worlds, between what dance had been for him and what it was becoming. 5 days before the showcase, Eli arrived at the Academy for a milestone in his training, the first full dress rehearsal in the actual theater where the performance would take place. The massive space intimidated him, immediately soaring ceilings. Plush red velvet seats stretching into darkness, professional lighting equipment suspended above an expansive stage far larger than the studios where he'd been practicing. "It's huge," Eli whispered to Claire as they stood in the wings watching Academy. Students performed the opening number, their movements precisely synchronized, their costumes glittering under the stage lights. "Different perspective from being in the audience, isn't it?" Claire smiled, understanding his awe. "But don't worry, the stage is just a space like any other. Once you start dancing, you won't even notice the size." Marcus appeared, clipboard in hand. "Eli, perfect timing. You're scheduled for a technical run-through in 20 minutes. Costume fitting. First, then we'll set your lighting cues." Backstage bustled with activity, costume designers making last-minute adjustments, stage crew positioning, props, lighting technicians, adjusting instruments, Academy students in various stages of preparation, some warming up, others reviewing. Choreography, all part of the complex machine that produced a professional showcase. In the costume department, Eli met with Diana, the head designer, who had created a special piece for his solo. "We wanted something that bridges the gap between traditional Academy aesthetic and your unique style," she explained, helping him into a fitted black shirt with subtle blue accents pants that allowed full movement, but had more structure than his practice clothes. Looking in the mirror, Eli barely recognized himself, the costume transforming him from awkward outsider to legitimate performer. The weeks of training, evident in his improved posture, developed muscles, the way he carried himself with growing confidence. "What do you think?" Diana asked, making minor adjustments to the sleeve length. "It's perfect," Eli replied honestly. "Thank you." When Eli stepped onto the main stage for his technical rehearsal, he felt momentarily frozen by the vastness of the space, the empty seats seeming to watch expectantly, the professional lighting suddenly making everything more real. "Take your opening position." "Please," Eli called the stage manager. "We need to set your light cues." Marcus joined him, center stage positioning Eli precisely. "This is your spotlight mark. Remember it, find it by the tape we've placed just here." He indicated a small piece of black tape barely visible against the dark flooring. "Lighting will follow you through the solo, but hit these 3 key positions for the major moments." Eli nodded, concentrating on memorizing the marks as Marcus walked him through the space, his choreography now needing to fill the larger dimensions. "Expand your movements." Eli eyed the gestures that work in the studio need more amplitude here, more projection without losing the intimacy. They ran through the piece twice, technical staff calling adjustments to lighting, sound levels, Marcus making notes on transitions that needed recalibration for the larger space, Eli gradually adapting to the theater dimensions. finding his confidence on the professional stage during a break. Eli watched from the wings as Madeline rehearsed her featured solo, the centerpiece of the traditional showcase portion. Her technique, impeccable body control, remarkable as she executed a series of complex turns and extensions that demonstrated years of rigorous training. "She's amazing," Eli admitted to Claire, who had joined him. "Technically perfect." "Yes, she is," Claire agreed. "Madeline's been training since she was 3, has naturals. Facility plus exceptional discipline rarely makes technical errors." They watched in silence as Madeline completed her solo, the lighting designer experimenting with different effects to highlight her performance. "But," Claire prompted, hearing the unspoken qualification in Eli's tone. Eli hesitated, not wanting to seem critical of someone so accomplished. "Sometimes it feels like she's dancing for the judges, not the audience, like she's more focused on proving her technical excellence than communicating something meaningful." Claire nodded thoughtfully. An astute observation and the eternal tension in dance between technical perfection and artistic expression. Some dancers never find the balance, too focused on either the mechanics or the emotion, rarely integrating both. As Madeline exited the stage, she noticed Eli watching her expression, cooling immediately. Enjoying the view, taking notes on what real dancing looks like. Before Eli could respond, Marcus called from the lighting booth, "Madeline, excellent precision. We'll adjust the downstage right spotlight to better catch your fouettes." "Thank you, Mr. Wilson," she replied professionally before turning back to Eli. Her voice lowered. "Surprised you're still here. Thought the Instagram post might have sent you running back to whatever shelter you came from." The deliberate cruelty of her words stung, but Eli maintained his composure. "Looking forward to seeing your performance on showcase night." "Madeline, you're very talented." His measured response seemed to irritate her more than anger would have. "This isn't some inspirational movie where the underdog gets a standing ovation while the mean girl learns a valuable lesson," she said coldly. "This is the real world where training, discipline, and talent matter more than viral videos or sob stories about foster kids." "Madeline," Claire interjected, having overheard, "that's completely inappropriate and violates the disciplinary terms Mrs. Winters set." After your social media incident, Madeline's expression shifted immediately to practiced innocence. "Just having a professional conversation about the showcase, Claire, nothing inappropriate about that." As she walked away, Claire turned to Eli. "I should report this, don't?" Eli shook his head. "It would just make things worse. She wants me to react to show I don't belong here." Eli's name was called for another lighting adjustment, ending their conversation, but Madeline's words echoed in his mind. As he resumed his position on stage, the weight of her dismissal, her certainty that he didn't belong, pressing against his chest. From the beginning, "Please, Eli," the lighting director called, full intensity this time. As the music began, Eli forced himself to push aside Madeline's voice, the doubt she'd tried to plant, focusing instead on what Marcus had taught him about expanding his movement to fill the theater space, about dancing his truth, rather than performing for approval with each phrase of music. He reclaimed his purpose, his joy in movement, his right to occupy this stage. When he finished, Marcus applauded from the lighting booth. "Perfect, Eli, much better, spatial awareness, excellent projection without sacrificing the emotional quality." The compliment warmed him, temporarily displacing Madeline's cold assessment as Eli left the stage, passing other academy students preparing for their technical rehearsals. He noticed a few watching him with expressions ranging from curiosity to grudging respect, one younger girl even smiling shyly as he passed. Not everyone at the academy shared Madeline's hostility. It seemed in the dressing room, Eli changed back into his regular clothes, carefully hanging the costume as instructed, when he heard voices just outside the door, recognizing Madeline and Mrs. Winters in conversation. "I'm simply concerned about the showcase's reputation," Madeline was saying. "The standards we've always maintained. Your concerns are noted." "Madeline," Mrs. Winters replied, her tone measured, but Mr. Wilson's artistic decisions regarding the guest performance have been approved by the board. The matter is closed. My parents were quite surprised when they learned about the special addition to the program, Madeline continued. Dad mentioned he'll be speaking with other board members at the benefactor's reception before the showcase. There was a pause before Mrs. Winters responded, her voice notably cooler. The Academy values all its supporters, Madeline. But artistic decisions remain with the artistic director, not the benefactors. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have technical issues to address. Eli remained motionless until both sets of footsteps had faded, processing what he'd overheard. Madeline wasn't just acting from personal jealousy or competitive spirit. She was actively working to undermine his participation, even attempting to leverage her parents' financial influence. The realization should have discouraged him instead. Eli felt a strange calm settle over him. 5 more days of rehearsals, then showcase night when the audience, not Madeline, not Mrs. Winters, not even Marcus, would decide whether his dancing belonged on that stage, whether his different path to dance deserved recognition alongside those who had followed the traditional route. Gathering his belongings, Eli headed home, determination replacing anxiety, his focus narrowing to the work still ahead. The refinements needed, the stamina to build, the performance quality to develop. No time remained for doubts or distractions, only dance. Showcase day arrived with a dreamlike suddenness. Eli waking before dawn, his stomach tight with anticipation, the culmination of weeks of intensive training, hours of practice, countless moments of doubt, determination, and breakthrough, all leading to this evening's performance. The past few days had been a blur of final rehearsals, technical adjustments, and last-minute refinements. Marcus pushing Eli to his limits while remaining supportive, encouraging. Big day, kiddo, Carlos said from the doorway. Already dressed, though it was barely 6 a.m. Nervous? Eli nodded, unable to pretend otherwise. Terrified, actually. Carlos sat on the edge of Eli's bed, an unusual seriousness replacing his typical sarcastic demeanor. You know I'm sorry, right, about posting that video without asking you. I never thought it would lead to all this drama. It's okay, Eli replied, sitting up. It worked out, maybe not the way either of us expected, but I wouldn't trade the last few weeks for anything Mom's making. Your favorite breakfast, Carlos added. Chocolate chip pancakes. Says you need the energy for tonight. Downstairs, the entire Ramirez family had gathered early to support Eli, Rosa flipping pancakes at the stove. Mr. Ramirez rarely home due to his night shift security job, sitting at the table reading the newspaper. The twins coloring handmade good luck cards with enthusiastic, if messy, crayon drawings of stick figures dancing. There he is, our star performer. Rosa beamed as Eli entered the kitchen. How did you sleep? Not much, Eli admitted. Accepting the plate of pancakes, kept going over the choreography in my head. You're going to be amazing, Rosa assured him, the simple confidence in her voice steadying him slightly. We're all so proud of you, regardless of what happens tonight. Mr. Ramirez lowered his newspaper. Your teachers say you're ready? Eli nodded. Marcus says the piece is solid. We ran it twice yesterday. Final dress rehearsal went well. Then trust that, Mr. Ramirez said. Simply trust your training, your teachers, and most importantly, yourself. The morning passed in domestic normalcy, Eli grateful for the grounding presence of family routine before the intensity of the evening. Ahead at noon, he received a text from Claire. Theater closed to performers until 4 p.m. Rest your body, hydrate, mentally prepare. See you backstage at 4:30. You're ready for this, Eli. The hours crawled by Eli, alternating between reviewing choreography in his mind and trying to distract himself with normal activities, though nothing could fully divert his thoughts from the evening ahead. At 3:30. Rosa drove him to the academy, the car unusually quiet, both lost in their own thoughts. The whole family will be there tonight, Rosa said, finally breaking the silence. Mr. Ramirez got someone to cover his shift. Carlos is bringing his camera. The twins are so excited they've never been to a theater before. Emotion tightened Eli's throat. Thank you for everything, Rosa, for driving me to practice, for supporting this crazy dream. Not crazy at all, she corrected, pulling up to the Academy's back entrance, where other performers were already arriving. Just unexpected, like most important things in life. Backstage hummed with pre-performance energy students warming up, costume assistants making final adjustments, makeup artists transforming young faces into stage-ready performers. Eli found his assigned dressing area, a small corner space shared with two other male dancers who greeted him with polite nods. Claire found him as he unpacked his costume. There you are. How are you feeling? Like I might throw up, Eli admitted. Is that normal? She laughed. Completely normal. Pre-performance jitters, channel it into your dancing. The adrenaline will actually help your performance. Following Claire's instructions, Eli began his warm-up routine, carefully preparing his body. The exercises now familiar after weeks of training, his muscles responding more readily than they had just weeks ago, evidence of his progress strengthening his confidence. Gradually, Marcus appeared 2 hours before curtain checking on each performer's preparation. Eli, perfect timing costume, then makeup, then we'll do a final spacing rehearsal on stage while the theater's still empty. In the costume department, Diana made last-minute adjustments to his outfit. You've developed more muscle definition even since last fitting. That's what intensive training does. The makeup artist transformed his appearance with stage makeup, enhancing his features for visibility. Under harsh lighting, explaining each step as she worked. This isn't about looking pretty, it's about making sure your expressions read all the way to the back row so the audience connects with your performance standing on the empty stage for final spacing. Eli felt a moment of pure clarity, the weeks of doubt, anxiety, and struggle suddenly crystallizing into purpose. The vast theater, no longer intimidating, but inviting a space waiting to be filled with the story he would tell through movement. Perfect positioning, Marcus approved as Eli completed a sequence. Remember that feeling, that focus, maintain it when the seats are full. As Eli returned backstage, he passed Madeline in full costume and makeup, her appearance transformed into ethereal perfection. Her features composed and practiced calm, though tension showed in her shoulders, the pressure of being the Academy's star performer, carrying its own weight. Their eyes met briefly, something unexpected passing between them. Not friendship, certainly, but perhaps a glimmer of mutual recognition, fellow performers sharing the unique pressure of showcase night. Regardless of their different paths to this moment, places for opening number in 15 minutes. The stage manager called, breaking the momentarily returned to the dressing area, where a surprise awaited Maya standing with a small gift bag. Thought you could use some moral support. Maya, how did you get backstage? She grinned. Told them I was bringing an essential item for one of the performers. Technically true. She handed him the bag. From everyone at Eastside Middle who isn't a jerk, which is most of us actually inside. Eli found a card signed by dozens of classmates, teachers, even Principal Matthews, with messages of encouragement. Support, good luck, wishes, the unexpected show of solidarity from his school community momentarily overwhelming him. Everyone's so excited to see you perform, Maya continued. There's like a whole section of Eastside students and families out there. The viral video was just the beginning. Eli, tonight is when everyone sees what you can really do. As Maya left with a quick hug, Eli changed into his costume. The voices of the audience now audible as they filled the theater, the reality of performing. Before hundreds of people, suddenly immediate, tangible nervousness returning full force as he realized his entire world would be watching. The Ramirez family, his classmates, teachers, the Academy community, all gathered to witness his moment. 10 minutes. To curtain, the stage manager announced, performers gathering in the wings, the atmosphere electric with anticipation. Eli peeked through a small gap in the curtain, seeing the theater now filled to capacity, spotting Rosa, Carlos, the twins, Mr. Ramirez. In the center section, their faces expectant, excited, nervous, a voice asked beside him. Turned, finding a young Academy student, perhaps 8 years old, in full costume for the children's ensemble piece? Terrified, Eli admitted. The girl nodded. Solemnly, me too, every time, but my teacher says that means you care about doing your best. The simple wisdom from someone so young. Steadied Eli, somehow reminding him that everyone backstage, regardless of age, experience, or background, shared the fundamental vulnerability of live performance. Marcus appeared for final checks, moving efficiently between performers, offering last-minute guidance adjustments, encouragement stopping before Eli, remember what we've worked for these weeks. Not technical perfection, but authentic expression, your unique voice through movement. That's what will connect with the audience. That's what matters. The house lights dimmed, signaling the start of the showcase audience conversation, fading to expectant silence. Eli felt time simultaneously stretching and compressing the moment he had worked toward feared. Dreamed about finally arriving places for opening number, the stage manager whispered. Performers moving into position, the curtain about to rise on. Westfield Academy's Fall Showcase featuring for the first time in its history a foster kid from the East Side who had taught himself to dance in the kitchen at midnight. The first half of the showcase unfolded in a blur of performances, Eli watching from the wings as Academy students demonstrated their years of training in meticulously choreographed group numbers, technically impressive solos, and classical variations. The audience responding with appreciative applause, parental pride, evident as each young dancer took their Bowley's solo was scheduled immediately after intermission. A strategic placement, Marcus had insisted upon giving the audience a fresh perspective. After the traditional first half, his nervousness, mounting as the initial portion, concluded the 15-minute break, seeming impossibly brief, as he completed final stretches, mentally reviewing his choreography. 5 minutes, the stage manager announced. Performers for the second half gathering in the wings, Eli now in full costume, makeup, breathing deeply. Trying to calm his racing heart, Claire appeared beside him. Adjusting his costume collar, remember to find your opening mark before the lights. Come up, feel the floor beneath you, center yourself before the music begins. Eli nodded, unable to form words through the tightness in his throat. Most importantly, she continued, dance for yourself first, not for the audience, not for Marcus or Mrs. Winters or anyone else. When you connect authentically with the movement, the audience will follow. Backstage monitors showed the audience returning to their seats, the house lights dimming once more, signaling the start of the second half. Eli caught glimpses of familiar faces, the Ramirez family, his classmates from East Side, even Tyler Brewster, who had mocked him, now watching with curious attention. Winters stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand, addressing the audience. Welcome back to the second half of our fall showcase tonight. Westfield Academy is pleased to present a special guest performance, next a unique collaboration between our guest choreographer Marcus Wilson and a remarkable young dancer whose journey to our stage has been unconventional, but whose talent speaks for itself. Please welcome Eli Thompson. The announcement complete. Mrs. Winters exited the stage lights, dimming to complete darkness, Eli moving carefully to his mark heart, pounding so loudly he was certain the front row must hear it, the weight of the moment nearly overwhelming as he took his opening position. Highland stretched seconds, feeling like hours, before the first notes of music whispered through the theater, a single spotlight gradually illuminating Eli's still form, the audience seeing him clearly for the first time in his costume. Against the dark stage, a solitary figure, poised between movement and stillness. Breathe, Eli reminded himself, Marcus's voice echoing in his memory as the music built slowly, the choreography beginning with deliberate, restraint-controlled movements, suggesting classical training, but with subtle contemporary interpretations, Eli's body telling the story of an outsider seeking belonging, finding His own path halfway through the piece came the pivotal transition, the section that had challenged him for weeks, where the music shifted dramatically, the choreography transforming from structured, disciplined movements to more expressive dynamic sequences, Eli allowing his natural movement quality to emerge, the essence of what had first captured attention in his viral video, now refined through training but not diminished as he danced. Eli gradually forgot the audience, the pressure, the weeks of doubt and struggle, losing himself in the pure communication of movement. The joy he'd first discovered alone in midnight kitchens, libraries, bathrooms, now shared with hundreds of witnesses. His private passion becoming public offering. Without knowing exactly when it happened, he stopped thinking about the choreography, his body remembering without conscious instruction, freeing his mind to simply experience the dance. As it unfolded through him, the final sequence approached Eli's favorite part, a series of turns leading into suspended moments of balance, then released the music building toward resolution, his body responding with increasing confidence, energy amplifying with each phrase, until the final movement, a reaching gesture, followed. By stillness, the music fading to silence, Eli frozen in his ending position, breathing hard, the spotlight holding him in its glow, for one extended moment before darkness reclaimed the stage. In that second of darkness, before the house lights returned, Eli experienced a perfect clarity, a certainty that regardless of the audience's response, he had danced. His truth had honored the journey that brought him here, had belonged on this stage, if only for these few minutes. Then light flooded the theater, and sound erupted. Not the polite, appreciative applause that had followed other performances, but an immediate standing ovation. Thunderous, passionate, starting in the East Side Middle School section, but quickly spreading throughout the audience. Rosa, on her feet, tears streaming down her face, Carlos whistling loudly, the twins jumping up and down. Ellie stood momentarily frozen by the response before remembering to bow, as Marcus had taught him, the ovation continuing as he straightened something unfolding in the theater that transcended typical showcase appreciation, a recognition perhaps of something authentic, something that had touched them beyond technical excellence. From the wings, Marcus gestured for Eli to take another bow, which did the audience response intensifying rather than diminishing, even Mrs. Winters watching. From stage left appeared, moved despite her usual reserve, her composed expression softening momentarily. Eli finally exited the stage legs, shaking from both exertion and emotion. He was immediately surrounded, backstage dancers, stage crew offering congratulations, Claire hugging him tightly. That was extraordinary. Eli, absolutely extraordinary. Marcus approached, eyes suspiciously bright. You found it. That perfect integration of technical foundation and authentic expression. That's what dance is truly about. Before Eli could respond, Madeline appeared, still in costume for her upcoming solo, her expression complex emotions warring beneath the professional composure. For a moment, Eli braced for another cutting remark, another dismissal that was. She hesitated, searching for words. Not what I expected. Eli waited, uncertain how to respond. You actually belong up there, she continued, sounding almost surprised by her own admission. Not the way we belong, not through the same path, but you definitely belong, coming from Madeline. This reluctant acknowledgement meant almost as much as the audience's ovation, a validation from within the Academy world that had initially rejected him so completely. Thank you, Eli replied simply. Good luck with your solo. A ghost of a smile crossed her face before she turned away, preparing for her own performance. The competitive hostility that had characterized their interactions softened, if not entirely dissolved, by the shared vulnerability of performance. Night as the showcase continued, Eli watched from the wings, a different person than the boy who had sneaked into rehearsals weeks ago. Hoping for a chance to join the dance, his journey from kitchen floors to professional stage, from rejection to standing ovation unfolding with impossible speed, yet feeling somehow inevitable, as if dance had chosen him rather than the reverse for the finale. All performers returned to stage the Academy students in their traditional formations. Eli included, at Marcus's insistence, positioned center stage for the final moments, a symbolic acknowledgement of his place among them, different yet belonging part of a larger whole. As the curtain fell on the final bow, the audience on their feet once more. Eli caught Rosa's eye in the front section, her expression containing everything words couldn't express: pride. Yes, but something deeper. Recognition of the transformation they had witnessed, not just a foster kid learning dance steps, but a young artist, claiming his voice, finding his place in the world through movement, backstage after final bows as performers reunited with families. Flowers exchanged, congratulations flowing. Marcus found Eli amid the celebration. So what happens next? Eli looked at him questioningly. What do you mean? I mean, Marcus clarified, that performance tonight opens doors, scholarships, training opportunities. If you want them, your journey in dance is just beginning, if you choose to continue it. The realization that tonight wasn't an ending, but a beginning washed over Eli as he considered possibilities that had seemed impossible just weeks ago. I think I'd like that, to keep dancing, keep learning. Marcus nodded approvingly. Good, because talent like yours deserves development, nurturing growth, proper training to build on that natural gift. As the Ramirez family enveloped Eli in congratulatory hugs, the twins chattering excitedly about seeing him on the big stage. Carlos admitting with unusual sincerity how proud he was, Rosa simply holding Eli tight without words. Eli understood that something fundamental had shifted, not just in how others saw him, but in how he saw himself. He was Eli Thompson, foster kid, yes. Student, certainly, but also unquestionably, undeniably a dancer, not because a prestigious academy had finally accepted him, but because he had always been one, from those first secret movements in midnight kitchens to tonight's professional stage. The dance had always lived within him, waiting for its moment to be seen.